I'm a candle maker, plant-based candle maker. I'm the founder of Red Fox Candle and Red Fox Mindfulness. I'm also a mindfulness and meditation teacher. And I'm also at the moment in training and studying to become a trauma-informed practitioner with nervous system education for all of us really to live a more authentic, joyful life with more ease, less stress, less anxiety. So yeah, thank you so much for being here, for being on this call. Before we start the presentation, I just wanted to run through a few things. First of all, I really would like to, first of all, honor you for being here. I know that after this pandemic, it's it's not easy sometimes to get back into the dating world, and whatever experience we go through, whether it's heartbreak, loss, whatever it is that we go through, I really honor your courage to invest in your growth, invest in yourself, and just for being here. So thank you. And also, I would say during the presentation, if there is a moment where you might feel maybe a little bit triggered, or you might start to feel that we're going to go through some journaling prompts as well and some self-query exercises. If you feel like you need to take some time, if you feel like you need to take a break and perhaps walk away from the screen even for like 5 minutes or so, get a glass of water, walk around the flat and then come back, then it's absolutely fine. Like, I just wanted to remind you that you don't have to be stuck in front of the screen for the whole duration if you feel like you just want to walk for a second and take a break. So I really want to, honor your body, honor where you're at, and that's absolutely fine. So yes, before we start, I really would like to do a quick grounding practice, just to kind of connect with our body, connecting with our sensations, the environment, before we get stuck into the mind and the questions and kind of talking about the dating experience, really. So yeah, you can do it sitting, you can do it standing, you can do it lying down. It's completely up to you. Whether you can keep your eyes closed, or you can keep your eyes open, or you can keep a soft gaze. It's completely up to you. And yeah, I just first of all, I invite you to just relax and start noticing the contact of an area of your body to the surface beneath you. So whether it's the contact of your sitting bone to the surface beneath you, to your chair, whether it's the contact of your feet firmly planted to the ground. Yeah, and just simply notice, just simply start noticing where your body is. Just notice any sensations. Sometimes I imagine if you were playing with sand and you were sitting on sand, you're on the beach, and just imagine what print your body will leave on the sand, where you're sitting, or where you're lying down, where you're standing. What would your print of your body look like? And just start noticing any sensations in your body. I sense constriction. I sense anticipation in my stomach. I sense curiosity, coolness, warmth, expansion. And just pick a word, whatever you're noticing. We're just simply noticing here how we're feeling. And then I invite you to connect a bit more with your feelings and with your emotions. And just simply observe, pick one emotion that you might feel right now. I feel calm. I feel relaxed. I feel nervous, curious. And then let's start connecting with the environment. So I invite you now to notice the air in your environment. What's the air in your room? How does it feel when the air touches your skin? Does it feel warm? Is there any coolness or tingling on your skin? Are there any sounds in your environment, whether it's the sound of my voice or any other sounds near you? Perhaps you might hear the traffic, you might hear voices from outside, you might hear the wind, nature, birds tweeting. And just simply notice. And then I invite you to look around your room, and starting from your right side, just pick an object. Just look at an object or something that you're drawn to. Just one thing that you're drawn to and just simply observe it. Just notice the colors, the texture. And while you do that, see if you can stay connected to your breath. See if you can stay connected to your body, touching the surface beneath you. And then if you turn to your left, what do you notice? What is one thing that you're drawn to, that catches your attention? And just notice your breath without changing anything, without changing the way that you're breathing right now. Just simply observe. And then just turn and look at behind you. What is it that you notice behind you? What is something that catches your attention? And while you do that, try and stay connected to the sensations in your body. Yeah. And then just look in front of you. Yeah, and welcome back to your room. Yeah, feel free to type in the chat if you want to share how you feel right now. Feel free to do so. And yeah, I hope you have a glass of water with you, and I guess we can start. So I'm gonna start sharing the screen. So, okay, so I'm gonna start the presentation. Awesome. Okay, so welcome everybody. So today we are talking about modern day dating and conscious relationships. So how to build a life you love and choose to consciously date with more self-awareness. As I said before, who am I? I'm Silvia, founder of Red Fox Candle and Red Fox Mindfulness, plant-based candle maker, meditation teacher, and I'm currently studying transforming the experience-based brain with Dr. Stephen Terrell to become a trauma-informed therapist with some nervous system education. So, what we're covering today, we're covering the foundations of conscious dating, what it means to consciously date with more self-awareness, heal ourselves, understanding ourselves, and then also building that relationship for ourselves. An exploration of your relationship history. So whether there are any patterns that keep repeating and keep coming up in your life and in your relationships, your core values and your core needs. And this is very, very important because it is about gaining clarity of your core values and how you want to live in alignment for yourself and how you really envision your life. So then you can become very clear, and when you're ready to call in that energy, you're ready also to attract a partner that is ready to share and embody the same values with you. And then we're going to take a look at red flags and green flags. So spotting some common and not so common red flags, as well as some of the green flags in relationships. So yes. So we're going to start with a bit of the foundation really of conscious dating and conscious relationships. So conscious dating is dating with intention. It is dating with self-awareness and emotional maturity. We first need to become clear on what life we want to build for ourselves, recognize who we are, what we need, and also to understand what are behavioral patterns in relationships. If relationships weren't really modeled to us when we were children or in our past, and we are not aware of why perhaps we attract who we attract, or perhaps why we are also like drawn to certain people in our life, especially when it comes to maybe toxic relationships, it's going to be very hard for us to really thrive in relationships, because eventually if we don't build that self-awareness for ourselves, we are going to constantly repeat the same patterns and the same behaviors if we don't recognize that for ourselves first, because otherwise we're constantly living in denial of a truth. So we first want to envision the life that we want to create for ourselves. And then once we have that clear, and once we are ready to embody those qualities, then we are actually ready to share that with someone who is very much in alignment with what we want and what we need as well to co-create together. And this is why the foundation of conscious relationship is so important, because I don't know if you've heard of conscious relationships before, but I think there is a bit of a common trend or common theme, or a bit of a, sometimes we think that conscious relationships just happen in romantic relationships. And the reality is that we can, first of all, the most important relationship that you have is the relationship that you have with yourself. Right. So if you lack of self-acceptance, self-compassion, and self-love, and if we don't invest in our own emotional growth, it's going to be very hard to be clear on ourselves and to truly love ourselves and accept ourselves for who we are, show up with authenticity, with integrity, and it's going to be likely that perhaps we are going to attract people who perhaps are going to bring some toxicity into our life, because maybe we are not able yet to be clear and set our own boundaries and say no when we actually want to say no, and trust our bodies as well, trust our intuition. So the most important relationship that you can have is the relationship with yourself. If you want to co-create the life you love and desire with someone else, you must learn how to cultivate deep intimacy, vulnerability, and self-awareness within yourself first. If you want to be fully seen, heard, and accepted for who you truly are, then it is vital to work on cultivating self-acceptance self-nurturing, and self-compassion within yourself. We're all together in this wonderful healing journey. And I think it is truly so important to understand why sometimes our past and certain events of our past as well do shape us in our present. And there are some recurring themes and behaviors that keep coming up into our life. And if we're not aware of that, as I said before, we're constantly going to live in these denial in order to avoid uncomfortable feelings, whether it's feeling of shame, helplessness, grief, sadness, anger. And what's going to happen that by doing so, we constantly abandon ourselves in relationships. We betray ourselves in relationships because we're not respecting ourselves first. If we're not respecting and loving ourselves first, and if we're not clear of what we want and who we are, it's going to be very hard to co-create with someone else. So, and this is why it's so important to understand your relationship history. Now, there's something that I want to say here, and again, I'm here to first of all hold space for you, and also to remind you that in general, when we talk about dating, I'm not here to tell you what's the latest trend in dating is. I'm not the classic dating guru from the magazines. I'm not going to tell you, what text to send to the person that you're dating or what strategy. I do not believe that there are strategies and games. It is not about games. It is not about manipulation. It is about cultivating authenticity and integrity within yourself, so then you can respect yourself and honor your boundaries, so that you can finally live and embody these qualities for yourself, because you're whole and complete within yourself, and you don't need to wait for someone else to complete these qualities. But in order to get to know yourself fully, it's really important to understand your relationship history. So what it was actually modeled to you. So just take some time to think. What is currently stopping you from having the relationship you truly want? Perhaps you've been in abusive relationships. Perhaps you have been in relationships where you might have encountered narcissistic behaviors, or maybe you have encountered betrayals, rejections, abandonment. Maybe there were times where your ex-partner wasn't even able to safely sit with you and communicate and be vulnerable with you and actually have very difficult but important conversations. Maybe your partner was always shutting down, or maybe even like us as taking ownership of our own emotions, of our own behaviors. If none of that was modeled to us in the past, it's very hard for us as well to understand whether we are perhaps projecting some old wounds from a past and some core wounds from a past to our partners. So the question here is, are you showing up as your most authentic and wholesome self, or are you repeating an old pattern? And this is why it's so important to understand that your relationships, your past relationships, were never failure. They're all beautiful and wonderful lessons. Because I always say this, whatever it is, like whether it's a breakup, a divorce, whatever it is that you went through, it was necessary for you to take it as a catalyst for your growth. Sometimes we put so much energy and thoughts into how wonderful the beginning of a relationship is, how wonderful the honeymoon phase of a relationship is. And we see it so many times on TV, on so many, when you watch Netflix, most of the time you always see the beginning of a relationship where everyone leaves and they're always like happy, happy and you know, the relationship always seems so perfect. The reality is that no relationship is perfect. And the wonderful thing about relationship is that if there is willingness from both parts to understand each other and to truly work in the relationship, you can actually learn a lot from each other and also from yourself. And when we say that you know, opposites attract, it is very true. It is true about embracing the differences in relationships, and most of the time we are attracting, and we do attract partners who trigger the most in us, honestly. So those who trigger us the most are messengers for us to heal a past wounds. The issues from a past keep repeating in every relationship we find ourselves in until we decide to make a shift. We want to interrupt the pattern and we want to understand the origin. It doesn't matter how long your list is going to be in terms of like the qualities that you want to see in a partner, if you don't know why, the reason why they trigger you, and if you don't know the reason why you get triggered. Maybe your partner tends to shut down all the time, whether maybe for sometimes you're a little bit more anxious and you actually really crave that closeness and that connection, but you do feel triggered because perhaps in the past boundaries or respecting boundaries weren't modeled to you. Or maybe you did receive emotional inconsistency. So of course you are going to crave more closeness and connection. Or of course, if you were always left alone as a child or in your past, and you were always so independent and very, very self-sufficient, of course you get into relationships where you might need more space, you might need more time alone. So the thing is that when you become aware, you can work through these things with another person. Otherwise, we're going to become victim of a past and we're going to become victim of our reality. And we're going to think that, you know, everybody is attracted to us and there is something wrong with us and then we're broken and we need to be fixed. You're not broken, you don't need to be fixed. You're such a wonderful human being, and that's the beauty of it, that we're all here to heal. So, a bit of an example of how you can reflect on your relationship history. And this is why I really encourage you to think about your childhood experience and how some events in your childhood might have actually impacted you in your adult relationships. Because most of the time it might happen that we do, you know, we do attract a type of energy in relationships, or we find ourselves to attract those partners that reminds us of something that we didn't receive when we were children. And most of the time, that is what triggers the core wounds of our inner child, which is essentially, what is our inner child? Our inner child is our emotional part of us. It's the emotional part that needs to be safe, that needs to be loved, needs to be nurtured and accepted. So an example is, if in your childhood experience, your parents or caregivers weren't emotionally present, or they weren't engaging with you emotionally, and they never showed love or affection, or maybe sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't. So there was a little bit of confusion around that. Then it might happen as well that in your adult life, you end up dating someone who is emotionally unavailable and abandons you anytime you have a disagreement. And this is a big one, because sometimes it might happen that we do actually have an abandonment wound and we don't know it. And again, abandonment wound doesn't have to be anything big. It could just be that maybe you were a very highly sensitive kid. You still are a very high sensitive individual, a human, an empathic human. And it might be possible that you suffered and you had some separation anxiety when you were a kid, and an abandonment wound could very much happen as well when your parents or one of your parents go to work, and that feels like abandonment. If one of your parents had to leave and work in another country for for a long time, that could feel like an abandonment, or the loss of a parent as well. So first of all, I just really would like to invite you to just take some time to think about this. And again, as I said before, these are just examples of experiences that might have happened to you. And just reminding you as well to listen to your body. If you need to take a break, feel free to do so. But yeah, so another example will be one parent was hypercritical and showed you affection only through your own achievements. And you might end up having a partner who often criticizes you. So you become a high achiever in what you do, hoping that they will learn to love you. So you do everything you can to gain that love and affection, while in the meantime you are betraying yourself and you're abandoning yourself and your deepest needs, because you're over focusing on what you can give to your partner or your future partner or your ex-partner in order to be accepted, in order to be loved. So we do tend to seek external validation from someone else, just so we can make sense of who we are, just so we can make sense of feeling complete. Because if we don't have anyone else who can give us that, then we're never gonna be complete. Or maybe it's that one or both parents were absent in your life, whether it was through a divorce, whether it was through loss, whether it was as well a form of abandonment. And you might find difficult to sustain long-term relationships because, again, it was never modeled to you. And this is how our subconscious operates. We might not recognize it straight away, but then over and over again, we find ourselves in these relationships where we do attract something, and something that it's mirroring us, all of the things that we didn't receive in the past, or what hurts us the most. So I invite you here, there are some journaling prompts here. So I invite you to reflect on these journaling prompts. At the end of the talk, I'm going to show you, because on my website, on the current website, Red Fox Candle, I have put all of the journal prompts and the self-inquiry exercises on there. So you will be able to sign up and get all of these questions. So then if you would like to reflect on this in your own time and journal about it, then you have them all available. But an example here is, are there any consistent themes across your relationships? So just really think about any consistent themes, whether it's betrayal, whether it's rejection, shutting down, and just really take your time to tune in as well with your body to just notice whether there was something reoccurring in every relationship you found yourself in. And what did you find the most triggering or painful? You know, whether you felt like you were abandoned, you felt like you were suppressing your needs, you felt like you feel like that perhaps there wasn't space for you to actually embrace who you were, embrace your emotions. Maybe your ex-partner always wanted you to be like them. So just notice what you found the most triggering or painful. And also, how do the patterns, dynamics in your relationships mirror events from your early development, which is pretty much what we talked about, whether there is a type of energy that you feel like you would like to cultivate, or you feel like it's actually missing within you right now, because maybe it's something we all want to feel safe. We all want security. We all want to be loved and accepted and heard and seen. And if that didn't happen to us, or it happened to us with inconsistency, this is pretty much how we're going to perceive ourselves and in our life, and how we perceive ourselves in relationships. Because we're going to constantly trying to grasp from that energy from someone else, rather than cultivating that within us. Yeah, so there are some self-inquiry exercises here that I would like you to think about, because this is also how it's going to determine how aware you are going to be in your future dating events, in your dating experiences, really. So first of all, when you reflect on your past relationships, I invite you to really think of your honeymoon phase. So the honeymoon phase is obviously when you get to know someone initially, and you obviously in your body, you feel the butterfly in the stomach, you feel really attracted to this person, you know, especially there is that chemistry, you feel physically attracted to this person as well. But just notice what was it like for you? I mean, during the honeymoon phase, did you also feel quite anxious? Did you feel like, for example, you didn't know whether to text or not to text? Did you feel safe straight away to express yourself? Did you notice if perhaps there was some inconsistency from the other person? Maybe there were days where this person was texting you a lot, and then there were days where they were completely disappearing, but not coming back to you with you know, a solution, or at least with a response. They were just leaving things kind of left and untreated and unsaid. Did the attraction happen fast? And what feelings did you experience? So again, as I said before, did you experience feelings of anxiety or oppression? Did you feel like perhaps there was already an overstepping of boundaries? Did you feel like that perhaps you couldn't be yourself? Or did you feel like you couldn't really have space to yourself, and there wasn't very much of a balance between getting to know this person, as well as, for example, having a balance of spending time with your friends and family? So yeah, this is something to think about. Again, as I said, all the self-inquiry exercises and the journaling prompts will be on the website, so you can always come back and download them and have a look at those in your own time. And then, when was the first time that you noticed something about your partner that you didn't like? Did you ignore it? Did you think it was just a feeling? When did things start to go wrong? And how did you respond? Again, whether there was disrespect, whether there was an emotional abusive behavior, whether there was manipulation, or whether there was often criticism, or perhaps there were stonewalling all the time. So this person was just shutting down, not wanting to talk to you if there was conflict. Perhaps you really wanted to solve the conflict, and this person just didn't want to have anything to do with that. Maybe they just left the room and they were walking away and not coming back to you. Maybe they weren't even telling you when they were coming back. So just notice, how did you respond, and whether you might have spotted some red flags, but then you decided to ignore them. And that's what happens when we live in denial of a truth. It's because when we live in denial, and we tend to suppress most of the uncomfortable feelings, because perhaps we're thinking that we are in this relationship with the hope that this relationship might change, or with the hope that this person might change, or we just think that this is how it's supposed to be. Like, if we're actually always attracted to chaos and drama in relationships, we just think, oh, this is how relationships work. So when we live in denial, we suppress our intuition. We stop connecting with our body. And trust me when I say, your body, it holds so much wisdom, because your body is really capable sometimes of telling you when something is off. When we say listen to your gut, I truly say it, because sometimes if you start to feel really tense, if you start to feel really tight in your jaw, you might have stomach ache, you feel anxiety, you feel like you're a pressure cooker in your head, or you feel like that, you know, there is a bit of a sense like something is not quite right here. Then when we live in denial, we just suppress all of that. And then the last question is, and this is actually going to help you a lot, because not only this question and this self-inquiry exercise is going to help you to understand more about naming your emotions and your feelings and explaining why you felt in that way. But this is going to help you as well to be clear on your behaviors and your patterns. And this is going to help you as well when you are going to date other people, because you're going to be able to name your emotions and step into your truth. You're going to be able to set some boundaries and explain very clearly what is happening within you, and explaining your experience without feeling like you're too much, or without fearing the outcome, or without the fear of getting hurt. Like, you stand with clarity. So identify the frustrations you had, the feelings you experienced, the reactions, and what you were afraid of the most. An example here: when they were busy, absent, and they didn't express feelings for me, I felt rejected and I didn't feel seen. I would hide my anger and sadness because I was afraid of being abandoned. So in this, you are truly like putting together your experience, exactly what happened in that specific moment, what you felt, what your thoughts were, and also what drove that behavior in you. If you are dating someone right now, this is a beautiful practice for you, because whenever you feel triggered and whenever there is conflict in relationship, this is a beautiful practice for you to raise more self-awareness and understand why a specific behavior, perhaps in the current person that you're seeing, might trigger you. And then you're going to be able to actually confront this person and sit with them with calm and explain why that happened to you. And this is actually to bring also a little bit more compassion and self-acceptance as well for who we are, and reminding ourselves that we're all truly human. So when it comes to dating, there's something so important here, that this is one of the most important thing. It's setting your core values and your core needs. Core values are fundamental to identify who we are, how we live our life, and how we want to be met in relationships. When we date and we get stuck in relationships, we might forget our core values, and we might end up over-focusing on the other person, or we might wear masks to please them or to gain more love and affection. And in that process, we betray and abandon ourselves, because we stop living according to what is truly in alignment for us. Sometimes we might know just a few core values, whether it's compassion and acceptance and belonging, which are great core values, but they might not be enough to co-create with someone who is in true in alignment with us. Because if we're always just simply driven and leading with compassion, acceptance, and belonging, we might actually forget other very core values that are super important to us. I don't know, whether it's adventure and playfulness, whether it's intimacy, whether it's vulnerability, whether it's being trustworthy. And again, this is so important as well for you, because not only you need to set your own core values, but you also need to think of envisioning the life that you want for you and your kids. And this is actually truly important, because here you need to think of what type of life do you want to live in alignment with, and how do you want to teach these core values to your kids as well? How do you want to embody them? And also, how would you like to be a model, and how would you like to embody these core values, so then you can be a model to your kids and your kids can actually see that. So this is truly important. We don't need to wait for another person to embody those qualities for us. So then we constantly see and desire what the other person actually shows. Because the most important thing here is to start living our life and embodying those qualities ourselves. We don't need to wait. So, what's your idea of a fulfilling and healthy relationship? What does it feel like? What do you envision? What would you like to do in a relationship? How would you like to show up in a relationship? What type of energy would you like to cultivate in a relationship? Again, as I said before, is there the ability to be intimate and vulnerable with each other? How would you like to resolve conflict? Like, just be very specific in what ways would like to actually live in relationship with another person. And also, like, what do you want to provide in a relationship? And what would you like your partner as well to provide in relationships? So, identify your core values. By the way, in terms of core values, on the same page on the website, I also left an image with some examples of core values. So you can take a look. I can also show you later if you like, but you can go and take a look at all these core values. And I would say maybe choose 8 to 10 core values in terms of like the top priority that are extremely important to you. And see whether you actually live in alignment with these core values all the time, or maybe there are some qualities that you would like to embody or start embodying a little bit more. So, what do you value in relationships, and what is your vision? Realistic expectations. What do you expect from a healthy relationship? Again, as I said before, what would you like to provide in a relationship? Safety, security, communication. Balanced expectations plus core values is a win-win. And again, remember, like, imagine and envision what would your future partner provide in the relationship, and how would your partner make you feel? Claim what you desire. Don't be afraid of claiming what you truly desire in relationship. Be as clear and specific as possible in what you truly want to experience in a relationship. Sometimes we think that by being specific, we limit our options and we limit the pool of possibilities, but actually this is what makes you a very conscious and empowered individual. So I would say definitely, like, claim what you desire. Embody your core values, as I said before, reflecting on whether you are living in alignment with your core values, and can you notice if you're out of alignment with some of them, and how you can bring them into your life a little bit more. By the way, how are we doing for time? Just checking.
You're on 10 to 9, but you're absolutely fine.
Just checking. I don't know if some people have to leave or anything, so I just wanted to check. Okay. All right. Let me know in case if there are any problems with that. Awesome. Okay, so core needs. This is another big one. Again, the clearer we are with what our needs are in relationship, the better, because this is very much related as well to our core values, and also how we want to express them to a partner without feeling like we're too much. Because here, the most important thing is that in a future relationship, of course, there is flexibility in willingness of meeting each other's needs. Like, there has to be flexibility, but if both parts are really willing to meet each other's needs and truly embrace our differences with curiosity, then you can actually cultivate a beautiful partnership. So when we become aware of what our needs are in relationship to others, we can communicate them clearly to a future partner without the fear of being too much, not good enough, or fear of getting hurt. Our core needs are extremely important to us. And although there can be flexibility within the relationship to meet each other's needs, our core needs are not negotiable. And if there isn't willingness from both parts or from one partner to meet our needs, it's going to be hard for the relationship to grow and thrive. Why? Because not only you will continue to feel disappointed and feel like you are suppressing your needs, but there is one big thing here, is that you're gonna start building so much resentment that we then might end up demonizing our partner. And this is resentment kills the relationship. So examples of core needs. I won't go into much. So to identify your core needs, I think it's actually important as well to identify the how we usually show up in relationships in terms of our own attachment styles. So whether we tend to have some anxious traits, so we kind of crave a little bit more closeness, we really like prioritize the relationship. Sometimes we might like anxious, people with anxious traits might overfunction a little bit in relationship as well, but they're also wonderful, empathic and sensitive beings. Or whether we are more, there are individuals more on the avoidant spectrum, which means that they really value their own independency. They really value their own space and their own time, but at the same time, they really value connection. It's just they need a slower pace for them in order to be vulnerable, because sometimes for them, too much closeness too soon might feel quite intense. So if you ever are interested and you want me to host a talk just talking about attachment styles, then I'll be happy to do so. But just an example of identifying your core needs. What do you prioritize in relationship? What do you need the most? What is something that you really would like to cultivate in this relationship? Consistent and clear communication, verbal reassurance, or for example, words of affirmation, quality time, whether you want to be someone's priority or whether you want to be reminded that the relationship is a priority. Because sometimes we might actually see the relationship as a third entity, almost like a garden that we want to nurture, we want to constantly cultivate, and we want to grow that relationship, we want to grow the garden. So whether you want to know and you want to be reminded from your future partner that the relationship is truly important for them. Validation of your experience and feelings. So empathy, lots of empathy without the need to be fixed. It's about holding space. It's about someone truly there to listen and to hold space for you. More intimate and vulnerable conversations, talking about feelings, talking about emotions, talking about our experiences. You might want your partner to just simply be more vulnerable with you, and that's okay to ask for that. Or maybe you want some more alone time. Perhaps you need more space to yourself. You want support and encouragement of your dreams, your achievements, your goals. You might need slow pacing in terms of vulnerability, validation of your qualities and what you offer in your relationship, your gifts, gentleness and appreciation, as well as safety, safe environment, safe communication, and also sometimes to be engaged without forcing or pushing. So to just simply bring that curiosity in without forcing the conversation or forcing a situation to happen. So another self-inquiry exercise that, again, you can just take your time to think about it, but what do I need in a relationship to feel safe, to feel loved, to feel held? What do I need to hear from my future partner? How do I want to show up in a relationship? Because again, sometimes we focus so much on what we would like to hear, what we would like to see, what we would like our partner to do, but are we ready to meet them the same way? Are we actually ready for that? How do we want to show up? Am I willing to equally meet my partner's needs? So again, here, willingness is one of the most important elements of creating a relationship together. We're now moving on to red flags and green flags. So yeah, there's something important here to highlight when it comes to red flags, because as I said before, if we've always been used to emotional chaos and drama and betrayal, or, often feeling like there's often a bit of a push and pull between someone who tends to feel a little bit more anxious and someone who, feels a bit more on the avoidance spectrum, so wants to pull away, and the other one is pushing, and there's a constant pushing each other away rather than connecting, and there isn't any communication around it. If we're used to that, it's going to be really hard to spot what our true deal breakers are, because that's what we've always been conditioned to, because no one really educated us to that. It wasn't modeled to us, and then we just simply didn't have that awareness that we have now. But what I really encourage you here is, even when you start going on dates, or if you're dating someone now, first of all, I want to encourage you to really trust and respect yourself. Trust your intuition. Trust what your body is telling you. Trust the signals of your body and how it's responding. Be very patient and observe rather than always rushing. We tend to rush in relationship because we want to secure the relationship, especially if maybe we did have some abandonment wound. It's very easy for us to feel like that we just want to be in a relationship. So then we have a relationship status and we are finally validated and we feel accepted. There is someone who's going to be, there to hold space for us. And then some of these red flags are not going to appear until we're very much deep into the relationship. So here I really invite you to just take your time and observe. You are the observer of what's happening, even during your dating experience, and just really see how this person is actually interacting with you. Learn to trust your intuition, as I said before. Don't ignore how your body feels when you notice that something is not right. Invite them to have intimate conversations with you, and just notice how they respond. Just notice whether there is consistency throughout the dating process. And most important here is always be authentic and speak your truth. As I said before, there aren't any games, any strategies. All you want to do is to just be yourself, and to believe that you actually deserve to be met by someone who is in true alignment with you, not with someone who is ready to emotionally, abuse you, or be unavailable, or give you a little bit of consistency one day and not another day, and they're not also investing in their growth, in their personal growth, in their emotional growth. But just to give you an example of some common deal breakers, again, I really encourage you here to write them down and find what your deal breakers and what your red flags could be. But control, manipulation, verbal, physical, emotional abuse, disrespect, gaslighting, not making you feel honestly that your feelings and your emotions are validating and your experience doesn't exist, boundary violations, so this is important, especially for you with kids, poor education with their kids. Because if you're dating someone who also has kids, and you just really notice that they have poor education, or they start mistreating them, that's a red flag. Obviously, you don't want to be in partnership with someone like that, because also what matters to you the most, especially when you start dating, is that your kids feel safe. And that's one of the most important thing. Demanding to be put ahead of your kids. If someone starts to become jealous from the very beginning, or they overstep your boundaries and they call you when perhaps you can't because it's evening, maybe it's a Friday evening or whatever, and you're home with your kids, and that's when you spend time with your children, and they completely ignore the fact that you might have children, or they ignore your quality time with your kids, then that could be a very much of a deal breaker for you. And also, one important thing as well is notice how your kids are around them. If your kids aren't comfortable around them, trust them. Because honestly, children are like pets. They're so good at picking up energy. Sometimes they're so extremely sensitive, and they're just very good at showing you that just through their face, their body, how they're reacting. They might not be able to express it, verbally as well, but just simply trust them. Because what's the most important thing here is the safety of your children. And you do want to find someone and co-create with someone who's actually in alignment with your core values, and very much in alignment with the quality time and perhaps parenting your kids as well. Also, if they try to give you unsolicited parenting advice without you even asking, you really don't want that. It's not necessary. So yeah, just keep observing all of this. Green flags, I would say green flags are big ones as well to look at, because I think often we put so much emphasis on what's wrong in the dating experience, what's wrong in that person, without often taking in accountability what their past could have been like, why they're acting in the way they're acting. And again, this is why compassionate acceptance and belonging is not enough. We can be very understanding of how someone behaves, and we can be very compassionate in understanding that perhaps the person is behaving in that way because they might have had a very difficult past, and they might not be yet very aware of themselves. Yet we can still set our very own clear boundaries and walk away from the situation because it just doesn't feel good and it just doesn't serve us. However, green flags sometimes can get a bit overlooked, I would say, like some underlooked, sorry. Like, safety is the main priority. You want to feel safe to express, you want to feel safe to communicate. And again, as I said before, willingness is a big one. You both want to be willing to be vulnerable, to show up for each other, to understand each other, to hold space without the needing to fix all the time, to take responsibility of your own emotions, not the other person's emotion. Take responsibility of your experience and your behaviors, to put the work in together and to meet each other's needs within the flexibility, but to meet each other's needs. Healthy disagreements, ability to have uncomfortable conversations and communicate safely. Consistency, it's a big one, emotional consistency especially. Boundaries are respected, and also interest and hobbies outside of the relationship are very much encouraged. So these are examples of questions that you can actually ask when dating. It might have happened to me as well, that maybe like in the past, some of my friends said like, oh, I would never ask these questions during the dating experience. I scare them. Well, the thing is that if you stand in your own truth and you know who you are and you are very clear of who you are, and you're ready to call in that energy that is very much in alignment with you, then there is no need to be scared, because that person is actually going to reply to those questions. Like the right person who is gonna meet you at the level that you're at is gonna be very much capable of answering these questions. And this is a beautiful way throughout the dating. Obviously, you know, I'm not saying that all of these questions have to be asked on the first date, but when you date someone and you start dating them maybe for like 2-3 months, these are questions that can very much come up. And these are beautiful ways where you can both start to create, also for yourself, you can start create a little bit of a conscious love map, where you get an idea whether this person is in alignment with what you're looking for as well, and kind of, you know, embodying similar values. How important is your personal growth? Are there any areas of your life you're working on at the moment? When do you feel the best version of yourself? What have your kids taught you? How do you spend time with them? Like, this is a big one. And then in case if it happens that your kids meet the person that you're dating, just simply observe and notice how they're spending time with your kids. What does your self-care look like? Again, is this person investing in emotional growth as well? Is this person interested in developing and interested as well in his own perhaps healing journey? How would you spend your free time? What visions, goals, dreams you have, and what you're working on right now, and how do you see a partner fitting into them? Like, what are their priorities? What was one of your highlights last year? And what's something small that always brightens your day? Just notice and observe whether, you know, how they deal under pressure, for example. How do they deal under pressure? How do they deal under stress? How do they react to situations? And how do they react with you around, you know, in different circumstances? So these are just examples of questions that you can just ask throughout the dating experience. And yeah, so as I said, take your time to really trust yourself. Embrace and embody the wonderful qualities that you desire in your relationship or in a partner, and make them yours first. You're whole and complete already. Again, we attract those who are in alignment with who we are. If we perceive ourselves already that we're not good enough, that we're not doing enough, we're going to attract people who are very much reinforcing that for ourselves. If we're stuck in codependent patterns and we don't know it, we are going to attract people who are going to help us rewrite the same story over and over again until we decide to make the shift. But it is our responsibility to make the shift. We don't need to be saved, and we don't need to save someone else. It is our responsibility to save ourselves. So then when we are clear and we stand in our own truth, then we can finally meet someone who is in alignment with who we are. But we don't need to wait for another person to complete us and to meet the qualities. We can just create the life that we want no matter what. And then when we're ready to call in that energy, then we're gonna stand in our own integrity. So I have put this as well on the website, but if you're interested in some resources, in terms of books, when it comes to the conscious love mapping as well, your core values and the self-inquiry exercises, if you're interested, there's a really good book called Getting the Love You Want by Havel Hendricks and Helen Hunt. This is actually a book that you can do on your own. It's, you know, they're the pioneers as well of conscious relationships and dating. And this is a book that you can read on your own, you can do the exercise on your own, and when you are in partnership with someone, you can definitely do the exercises together and you can create the love map together. Another good book is called Attached. So if you're interested in learning more about modern day dating and attachment styles, because they will come up eventually in your relationships and in your dating experience. Attached is a very good book, as well as The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. So then, you know, the clearer you are in what your love languages are, and the clearer you are in communicating them, the easier it's going to be, I guess, for the relationship to thrive, is your future partner is going to be able to meet you at that level. And then I really encourage you to look at Gottman.com. So the Gottman Institute, John and Julie Gottman as well, are together with Harville Andrix, are literally pioneers in relationships as well, with your children, with your kids, marriage, breakups, divorce, and anything relationship related. They have a beautiful website, so many free resources, so many quizzes as well. And one thing that I would recommend you as well during your dating experience, if you're interested, is if you download the app Card Decks. So it's called Gottman. I don't know if you can see it. Gottman Card Decks. I can maybe type it in the chat. But it's a beautiful app because it helps you to create that love map that you can do as well with the person you're dating. But also there are so many date questions as well. And there are also, for example, they give you examples of how you can give appreciation, or how you can express your feelings, how you can express needs, how you can express empathy, or how you can be a better listener as well. So I highly encourage you to download this app, because, you know, whether you're currently single and you're working on yourself, whether you're already out in your dating experience, or whether you're dating someone, then this is a really great app, because it just gives you directions and just gives you more examples of just how you can show up, really. Yeah, so the final thing that I would like to share is, first of all, thank you so much for being here. I really would love to, if you have any questions or any doubts or anything that you would like to just ask, I would like to hear from you, or even if you would like to just leave some feedback. I really would love to hear your opinions. So yeah, I'll be here for a bit if you'd like to. But there's one thing that I would like to show you, which is my partner Eli is actually here on this call, and we worked together to launch the website, or, you know, the Red Fox Candle website, which is now available online on redfoxcandle.com. And also, as I said before, all of the journaling prompts and the self-inquiry questions are on redfoxcandle.com/resources. You have to sign up, so you need to create an account on the website in order to see the journaling prompts. I can show you. I can share the screen right now if you like. And then once you have created your account, then you can go back and take your time and go through all of the questions and the exercises in your own time for yourself. There is a special Frollo discount. So again, as I said before, I'm also a plant-based candle maker. I make candles. So there is a 5% discount for you, for everybody in the Frollo community. The discount code is all in capital letters, Frollo5, and it's a 5% discount off your first order, which is available within 48 hours. And the minimum spend is £15. So if you would like to take advantage of that, then that's a special discount for you. And then, as I said, you can download and have a look at the exercise sheets on the website. And then if you would like to, if perhaps you're interested in diving a little bit deeper into the healing journey for yourself, and healing your relationship attachment wounds. And at the moment, whatever you're struggling with, I'm offering an introductory call, which is for free. So on the website, I also have a coaching page. So if you're interested and you want to send me an email or book an introductory call and just have a chat and get to know each other and see whether I can support you and help you, feel free to do so. I am here to hold space for you. I'm here to support you and guide you in becoming a more authentic version of yourself.